All right. Okay, so we start off, this is the only word problem on the test. The rest of the test, you're either solving for triangles or you're solving for the area of a triangle. So this is your only word problem. It's a tree, you're making a right triangle. The only way you can screw it up is if you put the shadow in the wrong place. Where is a shadow? On the ground. The shadow's not flying by, right? Shadow's on the ground. It's the only way you can screw it up. All right, so here we go. We have a tree. There's our tree. Okay, you can label him tree. Okay. Then the tree casts a shadow of 30 meters. Again, it's on the ground. We're going to pretend it's the world's straightest tree. So there's your right triangle. And you are going to connect these two. And it wants the angle of elevation of the, well, the angle of elevation of the sun is 28 degrees. Is this an angle of elevation or is this an angle of elevation? This is. Students get confused because they see the word sun. They're like, sun's in the sky. It's going to be up here. It's depression if you're looking down. It's elevation if you're looking up. So you're looking up at the sun. That's what your picture is going to look like. If you think you're going to get thrown off by that, draw that picture on your card. Draw a triangle, put tree, shadow, angle, because yours is going to be just like that. Okay. Then all you have to find is the height of the tree. That's your job. So you have a right triangle. You can do Pythagorean or Sohcahtoa. Those are your only, or all angles add up to be 180, but you don't need this angle up here. So what is going to help you, Sohcahtoa or Pythagorean? Sohcahtoa, because you only have one side. Pythagorean requires you have two sides. So Sohcahtoa is going to help. If I'm sitting here, I want opposite and I have adjacent. So what function involves opposite and adjacent? Tangent, right? This is the very last, this is the toa on the end, right? Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so I'm going to do tangent of 28 degrees. By the way, your calculator, put it in degrees and don't take it out for the whole test. All right, opposite, I don't know. That's my tree over there. So I don't know what you want to put here. Maybe we'll put opposite. You could put tree, you could put A or B, whatever you want. Adjacent is 30. What's your calculator work going to look like right here? Yeah, you're going to multiply these together. So 30 times tan of 28. And that's going to give you, and it wants you to round it to the nearest meter. That means a whole number. So round it up and you get 16 meters. Now, I don't care if you put the units. You can just put 16 if you want to. Okay, just make sure you put the whole number. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, that's your only word problem. So just multiply these together in your calculator. And that's how you find that and round it. All right. All right. So now we start with the triangles. Okay, this one, yeah, 12 problems. Okay, so right triangle. All right, so we have Pythagorean and we have Sohcahtoa. Find the value of each of the 6 trig functions. Okay, so that means sine, cosine, tangent, and their reciprocals. Then it gives us little a is 4. So remember, he's the side across from big A. Little c is 7. He's the side across from angle C. Okay, perfect. All right, so what I know is that when I go to find all these 6 trig functions, I'm going to need all the sides. I'm going to need opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. I'm going to need all of them. So I need side B. Okay, so that's where Pythagorean theorem comes in. All right, that's why he's on the board, because you're going to directly use him for a problem. Okay, my A, yeah. Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. Okay, so 16 plus b squared equals 49. All right, my b squared is going to be 33. I take the square root of both sides. I'm going to get a lovely square root of 33. You are also going to get a lovely radical that cannot be reduced. So you're also being tested to see if you rationalize with this problem, okay? All right, so here we go. We want all 6. So let's go through Sohcahtoa. So I'm going to write it up here. Sohcahtoa. All right, here we go. All right, first 3 letters mean sine of theta is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, so if I'm sitting here at theta, this is where you are inside the triangle. Your opposite is 4, and your hypotenuse is 7. There's sine. You did it. That's all you got to do. Okay, now while you're dealing with sine, you could go ahead and do cosecant, because remember, cosecant is just the reciprocal. So he's going to be 7/4. Just kind of knock out the reciprocals while you're working there. Okay, all right, let's go on to cosine theta. He's the next 3 letters. He's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, all right, so I'm sitting here on theta. So my adjacent is going to be root of 33. My hypotenuse is 7. I don't have to rationalize him because the root's in the top. Okay. While I'm doing cosine, let's go ahead and knock out secant. So remember, he's the reciprocal. Now you got a little hidden problem they're testing on. Can you rationalize this? Will you remember to rationalize this? So we're just going to multiply top and bottom by root of 33. We're going to get 7 root of 33 over 33. There's your secant. Okay. All right. Last but not least is the TOA in the back, which is tan is opposite over adjacent. Okay. Remember, you're sitting here. You got to go back into your theta because opposite and adjacent are relative terms. It depends on where you're sitting. I'm sitting here. So my opposite is 4. My adjacent is root of 33. He needs to be rationalized. That's going to be 4 root of 33 over 33. Okay, now I have cotangent theta. Now let's think about this. Normally, we've just been taking the final answer and flipping it. I could take this beast right here and flip it, but if I go back, the original version was this before I rationalized it. Everybody agree with that? So I could just flip this guy and I would get root of 33 over 4. Now you could do this one if you didn't think about that and you'd have some math to do, but you come out with the same thing that I came out with, okay? You sure? Yes. Good. You're going to choose based on, pretend you're in here. You're sitting wherever the theta is drawn. The theta will be drawn for you. So if you're sitting here, your opposite, oh, you can't see, I'm sorry. It's just whispering that. Okay, so you're sitting here. Your opposite is always going to be A. And if you're sitting here, your adjacent is always going to be B. But your theta is going to be up here in the top. Yeah, your theta is going to be there. If you didn't have the theta, then you could just put it anywhere you wanted, you know, and kind of come up with it. But you're going to have one, and he's going to be in the top corner. So your opposite's going to be down, and your adjacent's going to be side. Okay, for that one for sure. Is that okay? Okay. All right. So now the next 1, 2, 3, 4. No, the next 3. Okay, you got 5 that pertain to these directions. And the directions say 2 sides and an angle are given. That's not always true. I guess I should say that stuff is given. Determine whether the stuff gives you 1 triangle, 2 triangles, or no triangle, and solve whatever happens. Okay. All right, so here we go. We have information. I don't know what this guy is, but he's not a right triangle. Okay, how do I know he's not a right triangle? It didn't state it was, it didn't draw you one, and this angle given is not 90. So just assume that it's one of those others, okay? All right, so draw any triangle you want to. You can label it any way you want to, but fill in the information after you've labeled it. So he's gonna be 70. This little side will be 10. This little side will be 8. And this little side will be C. Okay, here we go. Now, let me check. Your next thing you do is check, is it one of those pain in the butt triangles? If it is, you have to be on high alert. If it's not, let's go ahead and solve it. So let's see. We have a side and a non-included angle. Everyone see how it's not included? This would have to be the given angle for it to be included between the two sides. So that means, sure enough, I'm spelling it backwards just so we can all be good boys and girls. It's one of those. Okay, we're on high alert. Okay, so now you get to choose law of sine or law of cosine, right? Whatever you have information for. This kind, you always use law of sine because you're always going to have all the information for one letter. All right, so I'm going to use the A's, and then the only other piece of information I have is B. So I'm going to use the B's. I'm going to solve for angle B. Okay, so the angles are what's going to go on top, right? Because that's what I'm solving for. So here we go, sine B over 8 equals sine of 70 over 10. Okay, let's see what our calculator work looks like here. All right. So I'm going to have 10, no, that's not right, 8 times the sine of 70, okay, times, or sorry, divided by, good gracious, Joe, 10. There we go. So this says sine B equals 0.7518. All right. Now, how do I just find angle B? Inverse. Anytime you're solving for an angle, you have to use the inverse. Okay, so if I do second sine of that, I see that B is 48.7 degrees. Okay, because I got a number, that means I have a triangle. So we don't have to worry about not having a triangle. So if once you realize it's one of those ASS's, you may want to just write up here numbers. And like once you discover, yes, I have one, okay, I know I have one. So that option is gone. Now I have to decide, do I have one or do I have two? All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish solving for the one that I definitely have. Okay, so if I know this is 48.7 degrees, how do I solve for C? Perfect. 180 minus the given, minus the one I just found. And angle C is 61.3 degrees. Perfect. Okay, then last but not least, the only other thing I don't have is side C. So if I'm going to solve for a side, it goes on the top. Now you can use the B's or the A's. I would encourage you to use the A's because they were given, just to make sure that you don't mess up. Excuse me, I felt a sneeze coming on. Thank you. Okay, that got weird. What did I do? I shouldn't have wrote this. Let's see, this is 61.3. Okay, let's do our calculator work now. All right, I'm going to have 10 times the sine of 61.3 divided by the sine of 70. And that gives me 9.33. Okay, that's C. All right, that's all the information for triangle one. So I found it. Okay, now I have to check and see, is there a second triangle? Okay, that's what I'm going to check for. I'm going to check and see, is there a second triangle? So the steps are on the board of how to check for that. First step, I'm going to do 180 minus the first angle I solved for. Do you guys remember, who did we solve for first? B. We solved for B first. So I'm going to do 48 minus 48.7 minus. Okay, that's going to give me 131.3 degrees. Okay, second step. 180 minus the given angle back at the beginning of the problem minus the angle we just found in step 1. That's going to give me negative 21.3 degrees. So what's the verdict? Do I have 2 triangles? No. So I don't have to worry about 2. I only have 1 and I solve for it. Okay. Think we can do that? Follow those steps. So 180 minus the first angle we found, then 180 minus the given, minus that answer from number 1. If it's negative, we only have 1. If it's positive, then I'm going to have to go through the process of finding everything for that second triangle. Okay. All right, good. Let's look at number 4. Okay. Let's draw a picture so we know if we have the ASS. All right, my B is 30 degrees. My side B is 5. And my side C is 6. Okay, so looking at the triangle and the information that we're given, is this an ASS situation? It is, because I have 2 sides and a non-included angle, right?
We only do one include when the,
Yep. So if you have the ASS, you have to do the 0, 1, and 2. If you don't, if it's any other kind, you just solve it. Those are the nice ones, right? It's not an ambiguous case. That's what they call it, the ambiguous case. Okay, so here we go. All right, we use law of sines for this. Plus, you can tell that because we have all the information for B and one little piece for C. So what are we going to solve for first? Angle C. Yeah, that's the one we're going to solve for first. That's the one we don't have. Okay, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put that in the top, side C in the bottom. That's going to equal sine of angle B, which is 30, over side B, which is 5. Okay, my calculator work is going to look like this. I'm going to have 6 times the sine of 30 divided by 5. I got 0.6. Okay, that's not our answer. That's sine C. So to get C, we have to take the inverse. And I get an angle C of 36.9 degrees. All right, for an ASS triangle, that tells me something. What does that tell me? It tells me I got a triangle. So I can get rid of the 0. That's not a possibility. I know I have at least 1, right? Well, coming. Okay. Yeah. Then it's an error. And then you know. Yep, it's undefined. Okay, so we did that. So now we're going to have to test for 2 triangles once we solve completely for this guy. Okay, so now I have angle C. All right, to get angle A, I'm going to do 180 minus 30 minus 36.9. Angle A is a big boy. He's 113.1 degrees. Okay. Last but not least, the only thing I'm missing now is little side A. Okay, since I want a side, side goes on top. Angle A is on the bottom. Now you can pair him up with the proportion for B or C, but since I was given B's information, I'm going to stick with B. Okay, so I'm going to do 5 over sine of 30. Okay, all right. So I'm going to do 5 times the sine of 113.1 divided by the sine of 30. I came up with side A equals 9.20. Okay, there's one triangle. We found it all. All right, now we have to check for the second triangle. This is the part that gets tricky. Let's see if we can do it. Okay, I'm checking for my second triangle. Directions say 180 minus the first angle I found. What was the first angle I found? C. if you want to make a little star by that or something when you find it, just so that you know what the first angle was, you know, on a test, you guys lose your mind. So you might want to, then all you have to do is go back and look for the little star, and then you know that's the first one you did. Okay, I subtract that. What did I get? 143.1 degrees. Now I'm going to do 180 minus the given angle. In this case, it was B, so minus 30, minus my answer from number 1, 143.1. Okay, if this is negative, we only have one triangle. If it's positive, we have 2. And here's what we ended up with, 6.9. So how many triangles do we have? 2. We have 2 in this case. So you found all your information for the 1. Now we need to find all the information for 2. So let's go back up here and see. Okay, so remember this first angle we were messing around with, C? I'm going to change his name to C1. Okay, where did we put him over here? We put him right here, right? So this angle you found here is going to be C2. Okay. Then we were given B. We found C2. What do you think this angle is going to be? A2. Okay. So whatever this first angle was, give him a little subscript of 1. And then this guy from step 1 is going to be the second version, version 2. Okay. And then this has to be the other guy. Okay. Now let's find little side A2. Okay. So little side A2 is going to go underneath. So if you want to draw another triangle, you can, but this little side is going to go underneath this angle. If it helps you, draw another one. Okay, this information is going to stay the same that was given. So here's what was given. It doesn't change. You can fill in the information you came up with. This angle C is 143.1. This angle A is this. And then you can, you know, make sure that you remember what goes where. Okay, we're going to use the given information from up here. We're going to put 5 over sine of 30. And when I solve him, I get a little bitty side of 1.20. Okay, please try, work on section 8.2. That's where these triangles are. You need some review on the 0, 1, 2 triangles. Work on homework 8.2. They're loaded up with them. Okay, and you can get some practice on that. What happens when you have more than one, so that you get all your labels correct. Okay, does that sound all right with everybody? Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, just be careful with your labels there. All right, let's try another one. Okay, everybody good on that page? Okay, let's try this guy. All right, I have 2 sides and an angle. Doesn't mean it's the ASS, because it could be an included angle. So we better go ahead and draw it just in case. All right, tells me angle A is 60, side A is 2, side B is 7. Okay, so what kind of case do I have? I have the SSA, right? Or the ASS. Okay, I know that because if the angle was here, it would be included. It would be sandwiched between the sides, but it's not sandwiched between the sides. It's down here. This would mean if it were up here, I don't have to try for 0, 1, or 2. I just solve it. But because he's down here, he's separate. All right, here we go. So I have all the information for A. I want to solve for side B. So remember, here are our choices for that case. Okay, I'm going to solve for side B. I'm sorry, angle B, which is over side of 7, equals sine of 60 over the side of 2. Okay, and my calculator, let's do our calculator work here. I'm going to do 7 times the sine of 60 divided by 2, and I get 3.03. Okay, some of you will see that and automatically know what happens. But if we go ahead and do our inverse, okay, let's do our inverse, second sine of this, look what happens. Error. What does that mean? Don't write error on your paper. What does that mean? There's no triangle. That means no triangle because you got an error. Now, why did I say you can put error right here if you want, or you can put undefined, but what I want you to write for me is no triangle. That's what I want to see on your paper, okay? Why did I say that at this point, some of you should know that? Because remember, sine is bound between -1 and 1. Anything smaller than -1 is going to be undefined. Anything bigger than 1 is going to be undefined. So some of you would see this and realize there is no way in the whole world sine of anything is going to equal 3. But go ahead and plug it in, and when it gives you an error, see undefined, you know there's no triangle and you stop. Okay? So one of each kind will appear on the test. Sound good? Okay. All right, number 6. This is supposed to be an easy one for you. Okay. Find the exact answer of this and tell why. Okay, some of you are going to put this in your calculator, but you don't need to, and I don't want you to, because what's the answer to this? 1. It's 1. Okay, why is it 1? It's the complementary angle theorem. You could be lazy and write cat if you want. You don't have to write out 3 words, heaven forbid, right? You've done a lot of triangle work. Okay. Also, I know it because 66 plus 24 equals 90 degrees. I want to see this. Okay. I want the name of the theorem, and I want you to show me that the angles add together to give you 90. This is what would get you 100. The 1, the cat, the adding together gives you 90. Now, of course, yours are not going to be these numbers. They're going to be other numbers, but just show me that those add together to be 90. Half credit. 99. Depends. I might just throw it in the trash. Okay. Now we're back to some triangles because not everybody is an SSA, right? Okay, let's see who we have here. Well, looks like he could be an SSA. We got 2 sides and an angle, but he's not. Let's draw him and show he's not. Okay, A, B, C. Okay, side A is 6, side B is 8, angle C is 100. How do I know I don't have to check for 0, 1, 2 triangles? It's included. He's a side angle side. Now you don't have to tell me he's a side angle side. You can just go about your business and solve the triangle, but this is why you don't have to worry about him. Okay, so we're gonna jump right in. He's not a right triangle, which means law of sines or law of cosines. Can I use law of sines on him? I can't. Why can't I? Yeah, I don't have one letter that has all the information. So I'm going to have to use law of cosines. Okay, so that means it would be a lot easier to use law of cosines to solve for a side. Well, if I have side A and I have side B, let's solve for side C. So if you look at your choices for law of cosines, I don't even know if you guys can see them over there anymore, but you would choose this one. You're going to choose this one for 2 reasons. First reason, because that's the side you need. The second reason, look at everything that's on the right. You have all that information. You have A, you have B, you have A, you have B, and you have angle C. You have everything. Okay, here we go. We're going to have 36 plus 64. I'm just squaring A and B, minus 2 times 6 times 8 times cosine of 100 degrees. All right, you can baby step that into your calculator, just little piece of it at a time, or you can just go nuts and put the whole thing in. The calculator can handle it. Let me get where I can see them both there. So 36 plus 64 minus 2 times 6 times 8 times cosine of 100. I just threw it all in. And I got 116.67. Everybody see how I put it in there? Okay, please do not write that as your answer for side C. What do I still have to do? Take the square root. Okay, so when I take the square root of that, and remember, you can just hit second square root, and then you can come right up there and hit enter. It'll pop right in. I get a nice little 10.80. Okay, or 10.8, whatever you want to use. Okay, now that I have side C, do I want to stick with law of cosines to find my angles? I wouldn't. It's a pain in the butt. If I were you, I'd switch to law of sines because now I have everything for C, okay? So I'm going to switch. I'm going to solve for the smaller angle, okay? Which is the smaller angle, A or B? A. How do I know it's the smaller angle? Because it has the smaller side. That's how I know it's the smaller angle. Okay, so I'm going to solve for sine A, that's angle A, over 6 equals sine of 100 over 10.80. Okay. I'm going to do 6 times the sine of 100 divided by 10.80. And I'm going to get 0.54712. And then I'm going to need the inverse of it to find side A. And I came up with 33.2 degrees for side A. Okay. There we go. All right, now I still have to find side B. What's the easiest way to find side B? I mean, not side B, angle B. What's the easiest way? Yeah, let's do 180. Minus 100 minus 33.2. Angle B is going to be 46.8 degrees. Good. And then you have it all. Okay, sound pretty good? So yeah, you had to use law of cosine on that guy. All right, I hate number 8, but I don't make the tests, so I can't do anything about it. I think it's stupid, and I think it's confusing, and I think it's meant to trick you. And I don't like tricking students. I don't know what the point of that is. It's not testing you on anything. Okay, look at this dude. What in the world? We haven't had that. What kind of triangle is this? A right triangle. Problem is, your entire life, you have been told that when it comes to a right triangle, this is your hypotenuse, right? It's C. So angle C is what? 90 degrees. This stupid problem has it labeled wrong, and I hate it because it messes with your brain, and I think it's wrong, but I can't do anything about it. So let's go through it together. Okay, so we're going to call this B. It just makes me want to break out in hives. Like it just, like I want to just scratch myself or something. I don't know. They've done it every year, and every year I complain about it. And they're like, well, if students were paying attention. I'm like, you're taking a break. Okay, so anywho, so it really doesn't matter who you want to label as your, see, I can't even do it. It's against my personal thought. Okay, so just label 1A, label 1C. Okay, I know it's awful, but just, it gets real wacky in a minute because we got to use Pythagorean, but we got to fix Pythagorean. All right, so, oh, I messed it up. Joy's doing a little finger guy at me. Yeah, see, I can't even, thank you. I can't even draw it right. Okay, so 3.41, let's see, 3.66, and of course that's 90. Okay, so what's the first thing that we're going to do here since it is a right triangle and we have two sides? We're going to do Pythagorean, but it's going to be super weird. So just remember Pythagorean. You may want to write this on your card. I didn't put it up there as, you know, side squared plus side squared equals hypotenuse squared. Think of it that way. So I'm going to have side squared plus side squared equals hypotenuse squared. I know it's wild, right? It's like your little hand doesn't even want to write it. Okay, so 3.41 squared plus 3.66 squared is this. Okay. All right, so we're going to square those, add them together. I came up with 25.02 is b squared. And then I came up with a nice little 5 is b. Okay. Or 5.00, whatever you want to use. Okay. Okay. All right, so we handled that. Okay. Now we have to come up with our angles. Okay, so now is when you get to pick your theta, Pike. So I think this is what you were referring to. So they're not going to give you a theta here. So you have to choose where do you want your theta, and then you just have to stick with it. Okay. So do we want to put a theta up top, or do we want to put a theta down here? Doesn't matter to me. Stick them up top. All right. So if you put them up top, then your opposite is this, and your adjacent is this. If you put your theta here, your opposite is this, and your adjacent is this. So in this problem, you have the option to pick your theta, and that other one you didn't. You had to go with the way it was. Okay, so if I am using opposite and adjacent, that's just what I chose since I'm the one that came up with this and I could have done it wrong. Which one of our functions uses opposite and adjacent? Tangent. Okay. I'm not using sine or cosine because I don't want to involve the hypotenuse. I could have screwed up. And tangent's the only one that doesn't involve the hypotenuse. So I want opposite over adjacent. Okay. If you chose to find this angle as tan theta, this would be your opposite, this would be your adjacent. So it just depends on where you put him. Okay, so if I find that, I'm going to have tan theta equals 0.9317. All right, and then how do I find theta? Inverse, tan inverse. And I'm going to get that angle A, because that's where I put my theta, is 43 degrees. Okay. See, on the other problem where we were kind of messing around with Sohcahtoa, we never found the angle. We never found theta. We just found the sides, right? The functions. Okay, now I also need to find side C. So I'm going to do the 180 minus the given 90 minus the 43, and I get 47 degrees. And there we go. Okay. Everybody okay with that? All right, that brings us to our areas. Okay, everybody okay so far? All right, so we've done 8 problems so far, and we're about to do 9 and 10. But remember, I told you there were 12. So how does that shake out? Okay, so if this question that was right here, you're not going to have to find all 6 of these in one problem. You're only going to have to find one, and it's going to specify which one for one problem. And then there'll be another one where you're going to have to where it'll specify a different one, but you're not going to know which 2 you have to find. So that's why you need to study and find all 6, right? Be comfortable finding all 6. But instead of shoving all of these into one question, it's going to break into 2. So like number 1 might be find tangent. Number 2 might be find secant. See what I'm saying? So that's where we get the 12. And then you're going to have 2 questions like this one. And you're just going to have 1 like this. And anyway, that's where the 12 come from. Okay. So let's start with number 9. Okay. Find the area of the triangle. Now you don't even have to draw the triangle because this is all the information you need unless you just want to. Because what I notice is it gives me sides. They're all lowercase letters. So if they give you all sides, this is a side, 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 there's only one way to find the area of a side, side, side triangle. It's Heron's formula. It's down there on the end. So for a side, side, side area, you're going to need the semi-perimeter, where you just add all the sides together and divide by 2. Then, remember, they like to use K for area because a big A looks like angle A. Okay, then you're going to use the giant square root of S times S minus A, S minus B, S minus C. This is going to be your final answer, whatever this comes out to be. Okay, so this is for a side, side, side. All right, well, here we go. First thing we need is the little s. We need our semi-perimeter. So I'm going to take 20 plus 25 plus 15, and I'm going to divide it by 2 or multiply it by 0.5, whatever you think. And I got a 30. Okay, now I'm going to come down here and do a gigantic square root, and then I'm going to do a 30. And then I'm going to do a 30 minus 20, because that's S minus A. 30 minus 25, that's S minus B. And 30 minus 15, that's S minus C. Now you could put that whole thing in your calculator, but I don't know. I'm going to do 30 times 10 times 5 times 15. I just feel like that's a little bit clearer to me. Okay. All right, so you can do what's under the radical first and hit enter, and then take the square root of that answer if you're more comfortable doing that. Or you can just say, nope, go for it and do a gigantic square root with 30 times 10 times 5 times 15. And I got a 150. And that's my area. Okay. Sound good? All right, last one. Now you're going to have 2 of these. And so if you notice the other area formulas, there's 3 different versions of them. They're 1/2 times 2 of the sides times sine of the angle of the side you don't have, right? So you don't know which 2 you're going to need. So put all 3 on there, and you're going to choose the one that you have all the information for. So if you want to draw the triangle for this, you can, but you're just solving for area. So I want the one that involves side A, side B, angle C. So if I look through my options down there, the only one that involves all of those is 1/2 A times B sine of angle C. That's the one I'm going to choose, right? I mean, there's 3 versions, and there's only one that's going to work for each problem. Okay, so 1/2 times 8 times 9 times the sine of 85 degrees. Okay, we talked before about how it's so much nicer in your calculator to put in a 0.5 instead of 1/2. So I'm going to do 0.5 times 8 times 9 times the sine of 85. And I came up with 35.86. Okay. And there's your area. So you'll have 2 of those with 2 different sets of information. You're going to have to use 2 of those different equations. So write all 3 just so that you have them all. Okay, that would be the test. Now let's do the bonus just to make sure. Now remember, one of them is going to be a super fun riddle. Okay, and then here's your bonus. All right, I'm not actually going to give you a picture of a triangle. You're going to have to draw it. So yours would say something like, solve a triangle with this information. Okay, that's what yours would say. And hopefully you realize it's a side, side, side. Okay, so you would go ahead and draw it because you're going to have to solve it. And since you're given all the sides, you're going to have to find the angles. This is a bonus because this is considered the harder kind. And because you have to be very, very careful about which formula you use on which angle. Okay. All right, so he's not a right triangle. So forget that. You have law of sines or law of cosines. Who am I going to use? Cosines, right? I can't use law of sines. I don't have all the info for everybody. So it's not an option. So until I get more info, I'm going to have to use law of cosines. And I'm going to have to solve for one of these angles. Now, here's where you have to make your choice. Which angle am I going to solve for with law of cosines? Keep in mind, it has to be the biggest angle. You're going to solve for A, okay? I don't know if this one comes out that way or not, but on the test, the bonus on the test, if you were to solve for one of the other angles that's smaller, you're going to get the wrong answer. You're not going to know it's wrong, but that's the nature of law of cosines, okay? So make sure you use largest angle. That's why I wrote that on the board. You probably can't see it anymore. But next to law of cosines, off to the side, I think it's under the screen, I put use for largest angle, okay? All right, so I need the law of cosines that involves angle A. So you would scan through what you have and find the one that involves angle A. All right, that happens to also be the one that solves for side A. Okay, so we're going to have to use that one. There isn't a law of cosine solved for the angle. That's again why it's a bonus, because you're going to have a lot of math involved here. All right, well, let's just start plugging in. So a squared is going to be 49. B squared is 9. C squared is 25. Minus 2 times 3 times 5 times the cosine of A. Okay. Let's see, if I do 49 minus 9, I get 40. Minus 25, I get 15. And then this is going to be negative 30 cosine A. So everybody kind of see what I did there? I kind of did that in one big step, but you could add these two together and then subtract it. And then I just multiplied all three of those together. Everybody okay with that? All right, now I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 30. And I'm going to get negative 1/2, or you can put negative 0.5, whatever you want, equals cosine A. All right. Now, how am I going to find A? Inverse. Okay, you can put 1/2 in there, or you can just put 0.5 if you are, sorry, negative 0.5. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do inverse cosine of negative 0.5, and I get 120. Okay, awesome. There we go. All right, now that I have A, when I go back, sorry, I wrote so big. When I go back, I now have all the information for A. So then your next step would be switch to law of sines and solve for the smaller angle, because law of cosines is only for big angles. So it's run its course. You've got your big angle. The other two are small. Think about that. They add up to be 180. You found 120. That means between these two, they have to add up to 60. Those are baby angles, right? They're both acute. You shouldn't be messing with law of cosines any longer, or you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay, so now you're going to switch to law of sines, and you're going to want the smallest angle. So who's the smallest angle? B. Again, because there's a little 3 across from him. So we know he's the smallest. Okay, so sine B is going to go on top. We're going to use our information for A because it's all we have. There we go. I'm going to, in my calculator, do 3 times sine of 120 divided by 7. That's going to give me a sine B of 0.37115. And then I'm going to need the inverse to find his angle. When I do that, I come up with 21.8, little tiny angle. All right, I just have one angle left. How am I going to find my very last angle? 180. Bless you. And that would be angle C, which is going to be 38.2. And as I expected, he's the middle angle. He's between the two. Now, let me tell you a couple of common mistakes students make that you might want to think about since you have a note card. You know, on test day, you guys go nuts and forget who you are. A lot of students forget this. They do all this hard math and they go, I don't know how to find the third angle because it's not the biggest and it's not the smallest. And you guys just start to like go nuts. So if you need to make a note at the bottom, you know, it's the silly stuff you forget. You forget they add up to 180. You forget Pythagorean theorem. You forget like the easy stuff. So you may want to kind of write some things out, but get as many study guides as you want. It's also going to be online. I'm going to put it on our Blackboard page, and I'm going to put my key on the Blackboard page, and I'm going to send you the video too.